Hey and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to tell you all about my journey with reading and the books that are significant to me. So I'm going to try to go chronological order and kind of like where I was at in my life and why these books are important to me. And so the very first book I have is Twilight. I read this like 5th, 6th grade I think. Probably shouldn't have been reading this in 5th and 6th grade. I was like absolutely obsessed with it. It was really huge at the time, and it was like one of the first series I ever read. I didn't really continue reading after this series though. It was kind of like a one-off. Like I read this series, but I didn't like continue picking up a bunch of books after I read them. I loved this. I was really obsessed. It was the first time I got like really into something and like fangirled over something. I went to all of the midnight premieres with my friends and my mom when all the movies came out. And Twilight was just like really special to me. And I know like it's cringy. I have Midnight Sun, but I'm like not sure I can get through it. And I don't know if I'll ever be able to reread these books because they are kind of cringy. I have read them more than once, but I don't know if now I could reread them because I mean, they're kind of cringy. I do have the hardback covers from like back in the day when they came out. And I'll probably never get rid of these books. I do really love them. So yeah, this is kind of the first book series that I ever was like fully obsessed with something. And there will be more obsession in this video. Next book series I would say is the one that actually got me into reading and realizing that like I actually liked to read, not just one book series, and that is the Maximum Ride series by James Patterson. I actually read this summer going into 7th grade. This was a summer reading book. I did not want to read it. I told my mom like, I don't want to read for school. This is dumb. I'm gonna hate it. It's gonna be really boring. Went and bought the book because I had to have it for school, and I think I read this in like 2 days. I remember not being able to put it down. Like, this is the original copy I've had forever of this book, and I really loved it. And I made my mom take me to the library and go get the next 2 books. And that's one of the first times I remember like, I remember liking going to the library, but I just remember like how much fun it was to go to the library when I was younger. And I finished the entire series. I've even read the spinoff that just came out. It wasn't as good. And I really want to reread these books, but I'm scared it'll ruin it for me because they are, I feel like, for a younger audience. And I don't know if I would love them as much as I did then. But these hold a very special place in my heart. I ended up going back and like buying the entire series so I could own a copy of them. I've read this book more than once. I've read the series twice all the way through. But I absolutely loved these books and I thought they were just so much fun. But the reason that I feel like this is important to me as a reader is because this is the year after I read this book that I actually continued to read. I remember my 7th grade year in my English class, I was the 2nd highest reader in the class. And this is like when I started reading Hunger Games, which we're about to talk about. And I got into like all of those like OG dystopian book kind of things. But this started it off, it kicked it off, and from there I just kept reading. And I read a lot from middle school into high school. The next one, I actually have the box set here, and I love this version of my books because they're like metallic. And they're really pretty. But Hunger Games, this actually was also in middle school. I think I was in 8th grade at this point, probably. I may have still been in 7th grade, but I think it was 8th grade. And I also remember loving going into the library at school, and my librarian at school suggested this book for me. I checked them out from the library. I read them from the library at school. I remember having to be put on hold for Mockingjay because everybody wanted it. And then I ended up rereading them. I had a Nook at the time, and I bought them all on my Nook and reread them. Was obsessed. My Nook broke. That is like so old. That was like Barnes & Noble's Kindle. And so a couple years ago, I asked for a box set of them for Christmas, and I got this nice little shiny metallic set. So I did keep these. But this was another one of those where I was obsessed. I went to all the movie premieres. I like would go to Rue 21 before the movie premiere and get like a Hunger Games shirt to wear to the movies, and like all our friends went. But this really got me into the dystopian era. So like this kicked off my phase where then I went and read Divergent, I read Maze Runner. I also like read Percy Jackson around this time. I would like literally have my friend bring me his copies of the books so I could read them, and then I'd return them to him. And then of course I went and bought another set of them. But this was like the height of my reading. Like middle school into 9th grade, this was like everything to me. And this is when I was like going through books like this. So I think everyone thinks that Hunger Games is probably significant to them at some point in their lives because it was such a huge thing, and I've read these books more than once, and I'll probably continue to reread them over the years because they did start my kind of dystopian phase and where I really fell in love with books. And this was happening right about after I did Maximum Ride, so these books are important to me as well. Next book, I think, was sophomore year. It may have been freshman year. I'm not exactly sure. I'd have to ask my friend. But that is City of Bones by Cassandra Clare. My copy was destroyed. I let a friend borrow it and her brother ruined it, but it's okay. I really don't care. I'm not going to buy another one. It's got this really horrible soon-to-be major motion picture movie sticker on it. But basically, I think I was reading Divergent, and I was in class, and this girl, who I did not know yet, was sitting across from me reading these books, and she was like, oh, you like this book? And I was like, yeah. And she was like, you should read City of Bones. And I was like, oh, okay. I was absolutely obsessed with this series. I read all of them. Well, I haven't read all of them, but I read all of the Mortal Instruments, and I've read all of the Infernal Devices, and we kind of like read them together, and that was like how we became friends, because I would talk to her about this book like every day. And we're still friends now. She's my best friend, so I probably wouldn't be friends with her if it wasn't for her reading this book and recommending it to me. We used to have like the little parabatai necklaces. Like, we were really deep in it. I remember this is one of those things where like whenever City of Heavenly Fire came out, I couldn't drive yet, so my mom had to go pick it up for me from Barnes & Noble, and someone like emailed me a PDF of it, and I was like reading it on the PDF. My mom came home, and I read it when she came home, and I read like that entire like 700 plus page book in one day and cried. It was like the best time of my life, and I was like really obsessed. But this is really important to me because if I did not have this book, I probably wouldn't be best friends with my friend the way that we are now, and so it really opened up. Also, we both, because of like this time period, made like weird fan art accounts of books, which I don't have anymore. But that was kind of like my first bookstagram. This is also what got me into watching booktube videos. I started watching like A Clockwork Reader, Sasha, God, what is her name? Allsberg, maybe? You know, the Sasha that's obsessed with City of Bones. And then Poland and Bananas, is that her name? I don't know, I haven't watched them in a really long time, but this is when I started being obsessed with BookTube, and here we are now. I'm on BookTube. I always like watched them and thought I want to do that one day, and then I never did, and now here we are. And I decided after doing Bookstagram and Book Talk, why not just make YouTube videos even if no one watches them. So this was really important to me, and I love them, and I do actually want to get back into the Shadowhunters world soon. I'm planning on reading Lady of Midnight this summer and getting back into this. The next book I know for a fact was sophomore year. Yes, sophomore year of high school. And I know everyone hates him now, or like hates these books now, and it's like a whole thing, but it is The Fault in Our Stars by John Green. I do own 3 copies of this book. This one is my signed copy. But basically, I read this sophomore year of high school. When I was 10, I was diagnosed with hypothyroidism. My old YouTube channel, I have a whole video about that. But no one really talks about thyroid problems, and so when I picked up this book, and Hazel Grace, even though she had lung issues, her cancer started in her thyroid, I felt very connected to her, especially because whenever I went through all that stuff for a while, they were thinking I might have thyroid cancer and I had to have surgery, and it turned out to be fine, like it was benign, and all that stuff. But this was the first time I like connected on like a deeper level with a character, and so I felt very connected to Hazel Grace because of that. And so I was literally obsessed with that book, or this book, and that's literally why. I've read it like 6.5 times. I got halfway through the 6th time or 7th time and I just quit. My old copy is just like full of highlights, and I was obsessed to the point that my 16th birthday party was in June. My birthday's in August. because this movie came out and my mom rented out one of the theaters in the movie theater for my birthday and surprised me, and all my friends were there. Like, they pulled up to the back of the theater with my car because it was my 16th birthday. And like the movie theater played a reel of like all the pictures from me up until 16, and they let me take home a movie poster that everyone from the party signed. It's still in my closet. But yes, I did go through a huge John Green phase after this, but this book meant a lot to me. It was like my comfort read. I could still go back and read this book and it would be like a comfort read for me because it just makes me happy, and I connected to it on a very deep level. So I will always love this book series, even though I'm not like obsessed as I was. But this meant a lot to me at that time period, and I really loved it. After high school, I stopped reading. I just didn't have time. I feel like I kind of fell out senior year anyways, and then college I like maybe read a book or two. Like I read Ray the Crawdad Sing on a like whim, and that's probably like it. Like I maybe read like one book. It'd be like in the summer I'd be like, oh, let me pick up a book. But I never really got back into reading, and then I graduated, and when I graduated I decided, oh, like let me go to Barnes & Noble and pick up a book. And I picked up two books. I picked up They Both Die at the End, which I didn't really love, and I also picked up this book. And this is the book that got me back into reading and is the reason I started my Bookstagram and then my book talk and now booktube, and that is A Court of Thorns and Roses. I am obsessed with the series, as a lot of people are. I mean, I literally got a Night Court tattoo a couple months ago, but this reignited my love for reading, and now I went from having this tiny itty bitty bookshelf to having wall to wall at the top shelves that are completely full, and I now have no more room for books. Gonna have to figure that one out, but yeah, this is really important to me because it brought me back into reading, and I'm very grateful that I'm here, and I'm glad that I'm reading again. And it's really been a nice escape from my life because being an adult is hard and it's not been the best 2 years, especially with COVID happening. So yeah, this just means a lot to me because, I mean, one, I love the story, and two, I think that it just like brought me back into a place in my life that I really enjoy and have given me something new to like do and have fun with. And I will always come back to this book, and I really, really want to do a reread soon. Yeah, I do have the old cover, but yeah, this is important to me because of that, because here we are, and I wouldn't be here doing booktube if it had not been for that book. So thank you so much for watching and listening to me talk about the important books in my book journey and why I started loving reading and how I fell back into love with reading. I will see you in the next one. Bye.